Okay, I'm back. So, I tried to do this a while ago, like last week, but the recording just sort of stopped halfway, and I swear I didn't like mess with it or anything. So, here we are again. I hate doing this. I'm so done with it. But there we go. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna Dark Crystal Lore. This is part 3 of the old Lorcast. Woo. Okay. So, we're gonna base all of this timeline stuff on the TV show. So, 1,000 years before the TV show began, there's this planet called Thra. It circles 3 suns. It's apparently pretty wondrous. That's what they say, anyway. Anyway, so 1,000 years before the show, 18 tree people show up, and they're like, "Hey, this is great. We really love this place. Hey, old woman who is Thra, and also the crystal of truth." Yeah, I didn't really say that. Anyway, so basically, Aughra, who is this old woman, she is Thra, and Thra is her, and she is the crystal, and the crystal is Thra. So it's like the planet itself has the 3 living forms. Its physical body, I guess spiritual, and its actual moving body. So I guess it's kind of weird to explain. Anyway, yeah, so that's Thra. So these tree people called the Urskeks basically say, "Hey, we came from out of space. We've got sent here because we're bad. How about you go look at space for 2,000 years, and then we will look after the crystal for you." And Aughra's like, "I don't know, it's kind of fishy." And then a little while later, there's this thing called... I don't think it's called the Harmonic Convergence, that's from Avatar. But basically, it's where all the planets and stars line up and whatever. And the Urskeks were like... They were sent here, they're supposed to get sent home at this, but some of them were thinking about evil stuff. So they got torn into 2 creatures. The Skeksis and the Mystics, 18 of each. They like... Okay, we're gonna use an example. Say a Mystic is shot in the back. The equivalent Skeksis to that Mystic will also feel that pain. So, yeah, if one dies, the other dies. But only that paired one. Anyway, so Aughra's like, "Oh yeah, now that there's 2 of you, I'll definitely help you." So she gives the crystal to the Skeksis while the Mystics just sort of go off and, I don't know, hang around. And then they're just hanging out when... Well, actually no, the Mystics are still around. Aughra's already gone, but the Mystic is like, "Hey guys, don't mess with the crystal, it's super cool," or whatever. But then the Skeksis are like, "No, I'm gonna hit this crystal." And then they hit it, and then it cracks, and a shard is lost. And then one of the Skeksis takes it and is like, "Guys, I know I'm like a super cool guy and I've invaded everywhere and I'm absolutely legendary, but I think we should rejoin with the Mystic half because it's really important." Hang on, I just gotta write something down. Okay. And the other Skeksis are like, "No, you're weird, get out of here, bro." So they kick him out. But what they haven't realized is that when they cracked the crystal, they created this thing, which is like an evil corruptive force called the Darkening, which slowly begins like coming from the core and infecting the whole world or whatever. And the crystal also goes purple. Anyway, okay, so this is a while later, I guess. So the guy who wanted to rejoin, he's called Skek-Gra, I think. I can't remember. And he's like, "Okay, well here's my other half, his name is Ergo." They go off to a giant plateau in the Crystal Desert, and they're like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?" Because the prophecy states that, there's a prophecy now, it doesn't matter. The prophecy states that Gelfling will bring an end to Skeksis rule. And they're like, "Okay, well how do we like let the Skeksis fall without letting them know what we have, and how we do that?" So they create a sword and hide the crystal shard in it called the Dual Glaive. and a bunch of stuff happens, and then this is almost 1,000 years later, but about 30 trine, or sorry, yeah, trine in years, they're basically the same. I'm just going to use years or trine. Trine years, they're equivalent, whatever. So about 30 trine before the show begins, one of the main character's dad, his name is the main character's name is Rian, but his dad's name is Ordon. So there's a big war between what's called the Aratham, which are like these big spider things. Don't worry, I stole the name. I was a kid, it's fine. So there was this big war. It basically left with a cave system being taken over by the Gelfling, and the Aratham soldiers being kicked out, and I don't know where they live, somewhere. But during the battle, Ordon, he had the dual glaive. Don't know how he got it, doesn't matter, he just had it. And he, at the end of the battle, he split it in half, gave half of it to a older woman who's, I guess, like the leader of her clan in the caves, so her name is Mordra Argot, and she has half of the sword, while Ordon took the other half and put it in what's called the Crucible, in the heart of his village, Stone in the Wood. This is some culture, it doesn't really matter, but I just really love how they world build this culture. In the center of this town is this massive, like, burning pillar, and it's just full of swords and weapons. It's really cool. But the reason they put all their swords in it is so, after a battle, they all put their sword in it in hopes that they'll never have to use it again, which is pretty cool. And that's where he put the dual glaive. Anyway, okay, so about 30 years later, sure, I need some background. You need some background, sorry. So, the Skeksis have basically taken over the whole world around the Crystal of Truth, what now is the Dark Crystal. They've created this giant, like, castle. Oh, there's a photo of it, whatever. Actually, I don't know if there will be a photo, because I'm really lazy. Anyway, yeah, so, big thing, whatever. And there are these 7 Gelfling clans that have divided up so they can't unify to fight against them or whatever. Anyway, okay, so, start of the TV show. We're in the actual Crystal Castle, that's what it's called, Skeksis Castle. And there are Gelfling guards, so, yeah. So the main guy that we're going to be following he's called Rian. He's Ordon's son, he's from Stone in the Wood, which is that village that Ordon is from. Anyway, so Rian, he has a girlfriend, and his name is her name is Mira, and yep, she's definitely a girl. She has wings. Females have wings for some reason. Anyway, so they are like, oh my god, we're flirting, and then they see an Aratham soldier, and they're like, what the hell, why is that here? It must have snuck into the castle. So they're like, okay, let's go tell the captain, who just happens to be Ordon, Rian's dad. So they're like, okay, hey Ordon, we saw something, and he's like, no, shut up, I hate you both. I have to go to the capital city of the Gelfling, hurrah, because, I just do, doesn't matter why. But Rian's like, oh great, so you're gonna need someone to lead the guard while you're gone. And he's like, yeah, I chose Tollan, because I hate you. And Rian's like, oh, what? By the way, this is, I guess, a side note, I really hate Tollan. He sucks, he's the worst guy ever. He deserves what he gets. Anyway, this doesn't really make sense in the story, I guess, yet. But there's heaps of, like, Skeksis politics going on in the background. And I might try and mention it at some points, but most of it's pretty pointless to the actual Gelfling side of this story. Anyway, so, yeah. So, Ordon leaves, and Rian's like, okay, Mira, let's go hunt this spitter, but we're gonna need help. And then his friend Gurjin shows up, and they're like, great, now we have us 3. Let's go get him. So they go exploring this city, the castle. For some reason, there's no one else there, which is kind of weird. So they're sneaking around. Roughly at the same time, maybe a little bit before, the scientist, who is a Skeksis, has been tasked with Okay, so basically, the crystal gives life to the Skeksis. That's how they're still alive. So they like take life from it and they heal all their injuries, whatever. However, it stopped giving life because it's run out. It's been 1,000 years of them stealing life. They're done. So the Skeksis are like, hey, scientist, fix the crystal. And he's like, I don't bloody fine. So he gets his lightning machine and he zaps the crystal. And then it starts sucking his life force, basically his essence. And he's like, ah, crap, I'm so cooked, I'm gonna get really punished for this by the Emperor. But then Chamberlain shows up. He's called Skeksil, that's his actual name. He's like, no, you actually did really good. And, he goes a lot. Or at least he does in the original. Anyway, so he... what does he bloody do? Hang on, give it a minute. One sec. Sorry, I've just got a complete mind blank. And Chamberlain's basically like, yeah, you can suck life out of the Gelfling and put it into essence, and we can drink that and get life. And Scientist's like, yeah, it's a great idea. I'm gonna go find a Gelfling. So he goes wandering into the catacombs, and just so happens to find Mira, who's got separated from Rian and Gurjin, and she's looking for the spitter, and he's like, oh, I thought I heard something creeping about. Naughty, naughty. And he kidnaps her. Real. Anyway, a little while later, Rian watches Mira get drained. It's a pretty gruesome scene. She, like, floats above the ground, and then just, like, she explodes. I don't know, it's weird. And all the other Skeksis are there, and we're like, great, we figured out how to cheat death again. Hooray! They're all dancing and having a great time until Rian starts crying, and one of them's like, bro, he's been spying on us, get him out of here. So they go chase him, but he runs away. Running away is his sort of main theme in, I guess, this show. So that's just great. So much more to go. Anyway, okay, so he was trying to escape, he was going to try to escape the castle. But then all the Skeksis are like, okay, do not let anyone leave. This is really bad. He just saw us commit a big old crime. So he goes and finds Gurjin, and he's like, hey, Gurjin, we got a Mira. They killed the Mira. And he's like, but they're saying you killed Mira. And he's like, nuh-uh. And he's like, yeah, alright then. So they sneak into the scientist's room to go and steal a bottle which contains Mira's essence. After a bit of a scuffle with the Skeksis, they run away with it, but are being chased by the scientist and Chamberlain, who, after some politics, aren't very happy with each other. After a bit, Gurjin gets captured, Rian escapes with the bottle. Yeah, he's out of the castle. Chamberlain's like, okay, well how about we say Rian killed Mira, and he's completely insane. Don't talk to him, I guess. There's also a thing called in this world called dream fasting, which is also kind of important. Which is like, you can share your memories, but not other people's memories. Okay, so now we get to Deet, who lives in the caves that we mentioned. So these caves used to be owned by the Aratham, but they don't actually know that. Anyway, okay, so Deet, she's just flying around because she's a girl. She can do that bloody shit. Anyway, she's just flying about when she says, I hear you, baby, and goes and finds some big worm thing called a Nurlock. And she's like, wow, I'm gonna feed you. But the food she's feeding him has been affected by the darkening. Because she's in a cave, the darkening's closer to the surface. Anyway, so she gets affected, well, she doesn't, but this worm thing gets affected. And she's like, why do you hate me, worm? But basically fine. She escapes and goes and finds a massive tree, who basically says, yeah, the darkening's coming and we're all gonna die. Go and tell the All-Mordru, who's basically like the Gelfling, like all of the Gelfling clan's leader. And Deet's like, what? How do I? What? Where is that? And he's like, and the tree's like, go to the surface, follow the stun or whatever. I don't know. You'll find a podling who will take you to a guy who you'll fall in love with, but not actually do anything with, and a bunch of stuff will happen. It's fine. And she's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So she leaves, with permissions of her dad's. It's fine. I don't know why I said it like that. It completely is fine. Anyway, so she leaves. She's adopted. Anyway, so she leaves. She begins traveling and ends up meeting that podling. Fights an Aratham soldier. I don't know why there are just Aratham around. Don't even know where they live. I don't know why they're there. Anyway, so she meets this guy called Hup, who's like this really short podling fellow. He wants to be a paladin. He has a spoon. Anyway, she travels to a place called Stone in the Wood. Anyway, Breya. We're on to Breya now. She's in the capital of Harrar. She's the one in the library. She's a princess of the Old Mordor. She's being a nerd until her sister comes over and is like, yeah, you're allowed to come to the ceremony, which is why the Skeksis were going to the capital back in Rian's part. And she's like, oh my god, great, I'm gonna get to meet the Skeksis, I'm gonna ask them loads of questions, because I'm a massive nerd. Yeah, so she almost gets run over by the Skeksis' car, basically. And the Skeksis are like, oh, you're a princess. Oh, get in here, we'll take you to the palace. And she's like, oh my god, thank you so much. But they have a chat and she just learns that they're really, really weird. Anyway, so she gets to the palace and her mother is not happy, but basically it's fine. They have a big ceremony, which is like, they give stuff to the Skeksis, or they give stuff to the Old Mordor or something. I don't really understand it. Anyway. Bloody... What's it called? Yeah, she has a fight with her mother and sister. Celadon is one of her sisters. She sucks. I hate Celadon. She deserved to die. Anyway, she goes back to the library after the ceremony because it sucks. And she reads up on the Skeksis lore, and she's like, okay, this is just stupid and it doesn't make sense. The librarian shows up and he's like, yeah, you don't want to get into this. Do not go and see Elder Kadir about all this lore. And she's like, thanks, so where is he? And he's like, he is totally not on the beach, sort of northwest from here. And she's like, great, thank you. He's like, please don't do it. And then she drops a book and a big floating symbol appears in the sky. It doesn't really matter. But she draws a symbol, memorizes it, whatever. So she goes to go see Elder Kadir. And he's some big weird guy. He's a big guy. And he's like, oh, you have this symbol. Oh yeah, it definitely means that we're all gonna die. You should drink this because it makes you forget. And she's like, how about you drink it? And he's like, yeah, right. So he accidentally drinks a memory forgetting potion or whatever. And then he gets knocked out because it just happens. And then some other woman, his, I guess, apprentice, is like, okay, I'll tell you where to get the answers you want, but you gotta go into your mother's throne room and steal, a moth. And she's like, what? Okay, fine, whatever. But she goes to get it, but ends up getting sent to the Order of Lesser Service, which is basically like, imagine a clown camp, I guess. But you're all cleaners. It's kind of weird. And then she's at the Order of Lesser Service. Okay, that's the next bit done, I guess. I'm suffering so much, reading this, or doing this, I guess. Ugh. Anyway, so bloody Rian walks to Stone in the Wood, because that's like where he's from. So he goes there to go talk to his clan leader, Mordred Farah. And he meets Deed, who recently had Hup thrown in a hole because he was bad, and she's trying to get him out. Rian goes to see Mordred Farah, and she's like, dude, you're bloody nuts, you killed someone. And he's like, nah. And then Ordon shows up, and he's like, yaha. So he's like, no, and then he climbs away and he escapes into the forest and destroys like everything in her throne room in the process. Anyway, he goes and hides in the forest and lights a fire, or attempts to light a fire. Deet shows up and is like, here, I hope you like the fire. And he's like, oh yeah, cheers. And he's like, oh yeah, we're friends now because you haven't tried to kill me. Everyone else I've met, like, really hates me. He's like, and she's like, yep, sure. Anyway, I'm leaving because I'm gonna go save my friend. So she goes and does that by pretending to be a monster. Anyway, Rian... Actually, no, never mind. So, meanwhile, a bunch of stuff is happening. And it's like... The bloody... The Emperor's angry at the Chamberlain. Like, this is Skeksis stuff. Because he hasn't caught Rian. So he demotes Chamberlain and promotes the General. And Chamberlain's like, oh, I'm so angry. I'm gonna go summon the Hunter. So he goes and blows on a big horn. And the Hunter shows up and he's like, who am I hunting, yo? I'm Skylar White, yo. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna go hunt this Gelfling. And he's like, oh, that's stupid, but fine, I'll do it. And he also says, by the way, nothing will stop the hunt. And then he leaves. So he goes to go hunt down Rian. Meanwhile, Rian goes to a pub and meets Tavra, who's from Hurrah, Gurgen's sister, and some other guy called Cayenne. I don't really know what he's doing there. And they're like, we're gonna kidnap you and take you to the castle because you killed someone. And he's like, nah, dream fast with me. And they're like, yeah, but now whatever, we'll do it. So they do that. And then Ordon also shows up. I don't know how he found them, but he did. And he also dream fasts, and they learn a bunch of stuff. And they're like, wow, really? Wow, they killed, oh my god, what? And they're all like, yeah, we're gonna go do stuff, or something. I don't really know what Tavra, Gurgen's sister, and Cayenne are doing. Well, whatever happens next. Anyway, so they're like, yep, we gotta go. And Ordon's like, Rian, the Hunter's coming, we gotta dip. And he's like, yeah, alright. So they run away, and there's like a scene of the Hunter like crawling in the trees above them, like a rat, and it's awesome. I love the Hunter. Anyway, Ordon ends up getting killed, and Rian is kidnapped by the Hunter. And before his tongue is cut out, Chamberlain shows up, smashes the bottle of Miro, and kidnaps him. So, that's fun. Anyway, Deet can't really do anything, so she just leaves to go to Hurrah. Meanwhile, this is like happening throughout all of the rest of it, and it happens over the next bit as well. Mother Aughra wakes up, and she's like, oh yeah, something's definitely wrong, I can just feel that something's wrong. So she reads some books, and then is like, yeah, there's nothing here. So she walks all the way to the Skeksis castle from, like, the other side of the world. And she's like, guys, what the hell have you done? And they're like, we haven't done anything. You left. You're not Thra anymore. We are Thra. And she's like, you're stupid. And then she leaves. She sees the crystal, and then has a conversation with it, because she can just do that, I guess. And it's really, really weird. Anyway, she leaves. And as she's leaving, she's like, oh, I've got no clue what to do. How do I... The crystal told me to find the Song of Thra, which I guess is like the fate and lore song of the world. But she doesn't know how to do that. And as she says that, a bunch of arrows land next to her. And she's like, oh, the Hunter, no, not the Hunter, the Archer, the Hunter's counterpart, he's calling me. So she follows all the arrows, and ends up arriving outside the Caves of Grot, and next to the Sanctuary tree, the tree that Deet was speaking to. And she tries to connect with the Soul of Thra by, like, doing a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't really work. And then slowly she starts hearing it just by sitting and waiting. And eventually she starts to, like, dance and sing the song, and slowly she connects to it. And this is like episode 5 or something, but it all starts to come together. So we'll sort of get to that. So Rian gets saved by Gurgen, who also escaped the castle. Rian was in the Chamberlain's car, but then Gurgen and I think the other people show up and they're like, hey, we've got him, let's get him, and they smash up the Chamberlain's car. And then they all are like sitting around the fire, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll tell you everything, so they begin to dream fast. Meanwhile, Breya, and I guess Deet now, is Breya escapes the Order of the Service, goes and steals the moth from bloody her mum's chamber, and goes to Annika, and she's like, yeah, go back to the throne room, because it's there. She goes back to the throne room, and finds a secret passage underground, and she finds a monster, and her mum's like, what the hell is this? Dream fast with me and I'll show you, mother. She's like, yeah, right. Meanwhile, outside, Deet is hanging out, just doing whatever, and then she has to dream fast with Celadon to prove her story of how she got to Hurrah. And all of these like different threads begin coming together in one dream fast happening at the same time, and it is a really epic moment, and yeah, it's epic. So all the threads of these different dream fasts come together, and everyone is brought into what is called dream space, which just so happens to currently look like the room where the Crystal of Truth is in. And Aughra's there just dancing because she's pretty happy, and she's like, ah yes, you're brave, you're noble, you're whatever, and she's pointing at all the different people, giving them different names, except Gurjin, who's just Gurjin. Anyway, and they're all having a chat, but Celadon is like, nope, you're a power-hungry witch, and I love the Skeksis, and she's like, yeah, get out of here, Celadon, so she kicks her out. Meanwhile, the Skeksis have been told, or the Skeksis are in Hurrah, because every year now, they're supposed to give 7 Gelfling, because they are gonna drain that many to stay alive. But then, as the Aughra like tells them all what they have to do and to help the rebellion, the bloody as it ends, whatever, everyone starts meeting up in Hurrah. So everyone like comes together, but then the Allmordra, who's like the queen of all the Gelfling, is like, the Skeksis, you're gonna steal my guys and turn them into essence? You are evil, no more. And then the general kills her, just because. And Celadon is like, Breya, this is completely your fault, I hate you so much. And she's like, what the hell, you're insane, you did this. There's a bunch of other stuff going on, but it doesn't really matter, they hate each other. Anyway, so the Skeksis just end up putting all of like the traitors, I guess, into a cage and kidnapping them, along with all the 7 Gelfling that we're going to take. So they leave. Meanwhile, Law, the monster under the stairs, he's awesome. I didn't really mention him that much, but he's great. As soon as Breya gets locked away and starts getting taken, because they have a bond, Law activates and just starts bolting towards them. It's awesome. And Rian, Cayenne, Gurjin, whatever, they're all also coming. So they manage to stop the Skeksis' car and free all of them with the help of Law, and the Skeksis escape because they're scared of Law, who is this giant guy made of stone. Fair enough. Anyway, they all go their separate ways, but a bunch of the castle or the guys that were gonna go to the castle to get drained are like, we're gonna go to the castle anyway and tell everyone about what the Skeksis are doing, and we're gonna start a rebellion and we're gonna overthrow the Skeksis. So they head off to do that. Meanwhile, the main group go to the Circle of the Suns, which is this big thing in the desert. Meanwhile, the Allmordra has her funeral, but she's burned, which isn't the funeral rite, which is like, oh my god, wow, the funeral rite's been betrayed or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, so they about arrive at the Circle of the Suns, but the Hunter is coming, and they're like, they don't know this. But also the Archer's also coming, because he has to or something. So they meet Heretic and Urgo, and they're like, oh god, it's another Skeksis. But they find out he's just completely insane, so it's okay. And he basically just tells them the lore and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, you gotta go get the Dual Glaive, because it'll save everyone, whatever. So they're like, yeah, we'll go do that shortly. But then the Archer shows up, and he's like, I hate you all so much. He sounds like Batman in my head for some reason. Even though he doesn't. He sounds like Lego Batman. In my head, at least. Anyway. So, but the Archer also shows up, and conveniently at the opposite side of the building, and he just shoots the hunter tons of times, but the archer is weak, so he just falls over. Or the hunter scoops Breyer up and leaves. Hub got hurt in that ordeal, so he stays at the circle, while Rian and Deet go to the Caves of Grot via this thing called the Breath of Thra, which is like a bunch of underground heat vents, to go and get half of the Jewel Glaive. Meanwhile, it gets so complicated here. Skeksis have made a deal with the Urathim to like join forces, because the Gelfling at Stone in the Wood already rebelled due to, I don't know, something. And they already know. So they made a deal with the Urathim to kill all of the mind control all of the Gelfling in Stone in the Wood and just walk them into Skeksis' cages to be drained. And then they're also like, yeah, go to the Caves of Grot, because you used to live there, and you can have it back. You totally won't get killed by the Darkening in there. Anyway, they're most definitely gonna get killed by the Darkening. So they mind control of Gelfling, so everyone in Stone in the Wood is now in prison. So, great. Anyway, the castle guards the guys from Hurrah that were gonna get drained show up at the castle and like, yeah, we gotta start a rebellion because the Skeksis are evil. But one Gelfling, outs all of them. Can you guess who it is? It's Tollan. It's goddamn Tollan. And all of the guards, except one, I believe, end up getting drained. Actually, no, not all of them. Most of them end up dying. Meanwhile, the scientist gets given... Yeah, sorry, this happened in the meantime. The scientist got punished a little while ago and ended up having his... What the hell? Bro, 2 horses just ran by. Huh. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, they're all nuzzling. Oh. Oh, now they're running off together. Oh. Anyway. Bloody... Where was I? Yeah, the scientist got given some things. No, he lost his eye. Yeah, his eye got eaten by a little eye muncher. I mean, he got given 2 little slave people called Grunaks. And they're awesome. I love them so much. I love the Grunaks. Okay, so, Celadon, who has recently crowned herself the new All-Mordra as the eldest sister of the last All-Mordra, she goes to Stone in the Wood and finds Aughra there, and she's like, it's your fault. It's all your fault, you old woman, because we would still be in power. Or, I mean, Skeksis wouldn't have killed us all, so it's your fault. And she's like, okay, whatever. You're gonna die if you go to the castle, you know. And she's like, no I won't, the Skeksis love me. So Aughra pulls her eye out and puts it in, it doesn't matter, she can do that. Pulls her eye out and puts it in her clothes, so she can see what's happening. Celadon goes to the castle and is like, Lords, you are brave and noble, and we will make sure no one else spreads the rumour that you do train Gelfling. She doesn't seem to notice the apparent lack of guards, as they've all just recently been killed. But the Emperor's just like, all the Skeksis just gone nuts, and they're like, we do drain Gelfling. Yeah, we're gonna drain you too. So she gets put in prison, and finds that Breyer has also been put in prison. She got kidnapped by the Hunter, and ended up there. The Hunter is like completely dead, but he's barely alive. They find that Tavra's also been mind controlled by the Urathim, and she's being used as like a slave to bait other Gelfling, I don't know. Anyway, Aughra shows up and is like, okay guys, don't bother draining tons of Gelfling to try and heal the Hunter, because that ain't gonna work. To save the Hunter, you need the essence of Thra. And who is Thra? And the Skeksis are like, yeah, it's you. So she's like, oh. So she says, okay, free these Gelfling and I'll let you drain me. And they do that. But it ends up being a trap. And the general goes and tries to hunt the Gelfling that they just freed. But they manage to escape, all of the Gelfling in the cages escape, except Tavra, who's stabbed up. Yeah, so she dies. Anyway, Orgro gets drained, and the hunter like comes to life for a moment, and then he dies again. What the hell is happening? What? I'm just watching this lady mess with the horses. I think she's trying to imprison the horses or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, but the general gets like stabbed, but then the Chamberlain heals him. I don't really know. The Chamberlain's a real whack guy. I don't know what he's doing. But the Chamberlain basically says, what if we like make an army out of like an army of monsters that we can make? We'll get the scientists to do it. So they give him a dead Aratham, so they can do that. Anyway, so Rian and Deet are in the Breath of Thra, and then they arrive into Grot. Shut up, Bowen, he's messaging me. And they are there, and they're like, oh my god, there are spitters everywhere. Oh, Aratham, sorry. They're also called spitters in this show. Aratham everywhere, what are we gonna do? But the Aratham are like, oh, we're being eaten. And then the Rian and Deet like save them, kind of. And then the Aratham are like, yeah, you saved us, so we're gonna help you. And they're like, yeah, they're definitely trying to kill you. They knew the Darkening would be down here, so why would they give you this place? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. We're gonna join the Gelfling now. So the Aratham went from being neutral to being on the Skeksis side to now being on the Gelfling side. Yeah. The Sanctuary tree, the big tree that spoke to Deet at the beginning, is like, I'm gonna die, so I'm gonna give you all of my power to control and redirect the Darkening. And she's like, what? How do I? And then she just gets it. They escape the caves, but are like, okay, we have to go back down. Deet, Rian says, you have to stay here, Deet. I'm gonna go back down and find the Jewel Glaive. But then Mordra Argot, who's just there, is like, what? No, I have it. And she just sort of pulls it out of her cloak or whatever. And they're like, great, well, let's go to Stone in the Wood to go get the other half. So they begin to go do that then. Okay, so Rian and Deet show up to Stone in the Wood, where they open up the crucible, pull out the other half of the Jewel Glaive, and as they put it together, like the message of unity, whatever, it alright, okay, what's happening? So, alright, back to it. I have a Tim show. No. Alright, so bloody hell. As bro puts the thing back together, all the fires go blue, and like all the fires across the entire world go blue, and they carry out like a message from Rian or whatever. And he says like, the Skeksis are evil, we gotta go find them. Come meet me at Stone in the Wood and we'll have a big battle. And yeah, it's great. And then bloody hell, the Emperor's watching through the crystal and he's like, oh, this is stupid. He smashes his staff on the ground and a giant symbol like appears over the crystal castle of like the unity symbol of all Gelfling, and as he slams the staff on the ground it just fully disperses. And the Emperor's like, your pitiful rebellion will fail, yada yada yada. It's great. Definitely should watch this show. It's pretty, actually. It takes a little bit to get into, but it's good. Anyway, so over the next little while, everyone's like preparing for the battle. Then it doesn't really matter. But the scientist is told that he's a wimp and has to stay behind to make an army because he was told to do that. So he's doing that, and the other Skeksis show up at Stone in the Wood and fight like 4. There are like 8 Gelfling or so there, just like the main group, the Heroes of Thra, which is what I haven't mentioned that, but that's what they're called. So they have a fight. The Emperor was like, "Hey, General, go and fight Rian for me." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." But he ends up losing. Rian wins in a fight against the Skeksis, which is bloody insane. And then the General goes and sulks off. As at that point the fight really breaks out, and everyone's like, there are bombs going off. It's awesome. Only like 2 Gelfling die that whole fight or something. It's really weird. And like 4 Skeksis or something. Anyway, so the General gets stabbed by Chamberlain, who kills him because the Chamberlain hates the General because he took his seat. Anyway, after that, the Skeksis are losing, and the Emperor's like, okay, I'm gonna unleash the power of the Darkening. And he puts out his staff, and all this energy shoots out. But Deet like runs ahead and absorbs it all with the tree power, and then sends it back and hits one of the Skeksis, who explodes, and it's really cool. Anyway, at around, I think it's maybe a little bit before, but back at the castle, the scientist is sitting on the Emperor's throne, pretending to be the Emperor or something. He's weird. When the hunter all of a sudden comes back to life, and he's like, "Where's Rian?" because he's still hunting him, and the scientist is like, "Oh, he's at in the wood with the others. I'm not a wimp, by the way." And then the hunter just runs out and basically just says, "Wimp." Then the hunter shows up at Stone in the Wood, smashes the dual glaive, completely breaking it, and all the Skeksis are like, "Yeah, woohoo!" And then, meanwhile, the archer back at the Circle of the Suns is like, "Hey, Hop, I'm awake. Anyway, can you open the door? I'm gonna go walk off that balcony." So he goes and walks off a balcony, and as he's like rocketing towards the ground, you see the hunter just begin like violently shaking, and he's like, "I'm about to die here," and he basically just blows apart, and out of his body like Augur rebuilds, I guess, because Augur got drained to heal him. Augur's back, yay. And all the Skeksis like, "No, she's back," and then that darkening, the shooting the darkening, Deep shoots back thing happens. And then the Skeksis like, "Okay, yeah, we gotta run." So the Skeksis all dip, and the Gelfling win. And then all of the other Gelfling show up. It's a tiny bit late, but all the clans arrive, and even the Aratham soldiers. And they're like, "Yay, we win the war." So that's great. I got Tim Tam. Good stuff. Anyway, the Who's It What's It happens. So Augur just begins like saying, "This day does not begin to a single clan, it begins to all of us, all Gelfling united," whatever. Meanwhile, Deet is like, "Oh my god, I'm infected by the Darkening. I'm gonna leave to protect my friends." And Rian's really sad and like cries as she walks away. Meanwhile, Deet leans down and picks up the remains of the glaive and finds the crystal shard. And like as it lifts up, it shows it's awesome. Meanwhile, the Grunaks, they try to escape. Like their mouths are sewed shut. I didn't bother mentioning a lot of stuff. Their mouths are sewed shut, and they like cut them. And then the scientist walks in, and he's like, "Ah, you mutinous little fools!" And he throws one of them down the hole under the crystal. While the other one is hacked to pieces, and he uses half of the Grunak and half of the Aratham soldier to make what's called a Gartham. And as the other Skeksis arrive, they see this thing and they're like, "Yeah, we can actually win a full-scale war with an army of these things." But except like the Grunaks are now extinct because he killed the last 2, from what I know. So, but I don't know how he's gonna make more. Anyway, I really loved the Grunaks, they were awesome. Anyway, so there's this thing called the Gartham Wars. I don't really know how the timeline goes from here, but it might be like 1,000 years. I don't bloody know. Bloody hell. But basically, all the Gelfling are killed. All of them gone, deleted, removed. Except 2 of them. Which one of them might be Breya's child? Which, I don't know. It was just because Deet had a vision that showed like it was someone that looked like Breya holding a kid. Anyway, Gartham Wars, everyone dies. Okay, now it's the actual movie. So, like 1,000 years or so later, I think, one of the Gelflings, Jen, who's living with the Mystics, is like, Master Mystic, there are too many of them. What are we going to do? And then the Mystic turns on his lightsaber and kills all the kids. No, sorry. So Jen is talking to his master, who is a Mystic, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta go take a crystal and put it in the thing to fix everything before this certain date, because that's when the next convergence and all the stars and stuff line up." So he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." Jen's master dies, and at the same time, the Emperor in the castle is dying after a lifetime of experimenting on the crystal. He dies. And the general's back. Don't know how, but the general becomes the new Emperor. Anyway, so what happens? So Jen goes to Aughra, finds the crystal shard after a bit, and then gets attacked by some Garthim. But escapes. Then meets Kira, who is another Gelfling. It's weird because they both thought they were the only one. But whatever. Chamberlain gets kicked out of the castle because he wanted to be the Emperor but failed in a fight. So he gets kicked out, doesn't know what to do, so goes and hides in the sewers. Kira and Jen arrive at the castle and think, no one's going to be in the sewers, let's sneak in that way. Then they find the Chamberlain, who's sneaking around down there. And he's like, oh, this is a great idea. If I can kidnap this Gelfling and drain them and give it to the Emperor, I'll be back in his good graces. He really never changes. So he gives them to the scientist to drain. Meanwhile, I don't know, Chamberlain's off doing something. Then Jen is like running he's on the crystal and he's gonna like put the thing in, and Jen's getting my names are getting mixed up. Jen is on the crystal about to shove the thing in the thing, but he drops it. Meanwhile, Kira is getting drained, but she can talk to animals, so she just talks to the animals. And these animals throw the scientist down the hole, which is how that Grunak died, so that's kind of fun. Bloody deserves it, this is stupid. Anyway, so he dies, and then Kira goes off, grabs a crystal, throws it to Jen, and he puts the thing in the thing, and saves the world. That's a quote from a Lego movie, I believe. Anyway, yeah, so all just as all the stars and stuff line up, the Skeksis and Mystics are like drawn to each other, and they suck in together, and they turn back into the Urskeks, who are like, great, we can now leave because we totally haven't done any evil stuff. And they all leave. And that's just like the live action stuff. Well, not really live action. All the puppet stuff. There are books and stuff, and I can't be bothered reading them. Great, I'm done. Bye.